Good evening, everybody, and welcome to University Synagogue. We are so delighted to welcome you to this space. I'm Cantor Spencer Shapiro. Thank you. Thank you very much. We're so excited to bring this program to you this evening. I'm going to go a little bit backwards in my announcements this evening. The first thing I want to let you know is that during the intermission, there will be refreshments served out there, so please go ahead and you can purchase those refreshments. All of the proceeds will go to our youth group and our music department. I want to thank our University Synagogue staff who helped make this space beautiful this evening and did all of the work to put the programs together. So thank you to them. And I also want to thank you. I also want to thank Rabbi Morley Feinstein. I don't see you, Rabbi. Where are you? Somewhere over. Hi. Our senior rabbi for supporting us in all of our endeavors here at University Synagogue. But most importantly, this evening, I am just so very excited to share this space and this time with two of my teachers from my graduate school experience. So my teacher, Cantor Jacob Mendelson, will be taking the stage later, and I can't really say much about him because he's beyond words, but Mark's going to say a few words about him. And Professor Mark Kligman was also my professor at Hebrew Union College. Mark and I moved here the same week to Los Angeles about 5 years ago. And I moved here to become the cantor of this wonderful institution. And Mark is the Mickey Katz Endowed Chair of Jewish Music at the UCLA Herb Alpert School of Music, and he's also the director of the Lowell Milken Fund for American Jewish Music, and both of those institutions have helped to co-sponsor this evening's event. Mark's going to say a few words, but before he does, I also want to recognize Lori Black. Is Lori here? Lori's back there, and Lori is the assistant director of the Lowell Milken Associate Director of the Lowell Milken Fund for American Jewish Music, and Beth Kramer. Beth, are you here? I know she's way in the back there. And Beth is the coordinator and manager for the Lowell Milken Fund for American Jewish Music. If you're interested in learning more about what the Milken Fund does, you can find out more about them at intermission too. I'm going to hand it over to Mark now. Thank you all again for joining us this evening.
Shavua Tov, it's really a very, very special treat to be here. I feel this particular closeness to University Synagogue, in one part because I grew up in the San Fernando Valley in Northridge, and we always heard about University Synagogue in the Valley was something we always heard about in the many activities when I was growing up in the 70s and 80s. And your rabbi, Rabbi Morley Feinstein, really has a very special relationship with Hebrew Union College, always making himself available. And I think I came to speak here about 15 or so years ago. He asked me to come here. And also, more to the point, is that this very sort of special connection and almost homecoming is that when Cantor Shapiro started here, I actually was at one of the events that inaugurated her arrival here, so it was really a very special experience in which to do that. Been able to see her children grow up from afar, and it's really so nice just to see that this congregation really has a very special clergy team, and I'm sure you benefit wonderfully from all that. At UCLA, the Herb Alpert School of Music, we're so excited with the Jewish music activities, and I'm so proud to be able to direct and manage and guide with a really wonderful team of people. And we invite you to partake of these events. We're trying to build relationships with many different synagogues and community partners. And so we're looking at this as an inaugural event here at University Synagogue, and things that we can do on this side of the 405 for the people that don't want to go over the 405. And anyways, on the other side of the 405 at UCLA, we have many exciting programs. We have a couple of great things going on this week. A very exciting concert called India to Indiana about a Jewish composer from Bohemia, Walter Kaufman, who escaped the war by going to Bombay, India, being very involved with music in India, then went to Indiana University. Anything about what we do, we encourage you to sign up and hear about it. And again, we're doing all sorts of things here in LA through research programs and so forth, and we look forward to doing more things together. So for this particular show, which is a homecoming of sorts, not only is Rabbi Shapiro a former student, but also is one of the co-writers of the show, and one of the musical director is Cantor Jonathan Commissar. You'll get to hear his wonderful, brilliant talents as a musician, as a cantor. And this particular show is so deeply connected to the personal life and story of Cantor Jack Mendelsohn. And I think what touches me so deeply about this show is that it's really the story of an individual, really the story of a person, and it's a story that is so relatable and so wonderful. It's a story that our families are a part of, and you'll just hear how personalized this sort of vast history becomes. So without further ado, let me introduce the show at Cantor's Couch with Cantor Jonathan Commissar and Cantor Jack Mendelsohn.
Borough Park, to be exact. The war was over, and the Jews started making their way. The old was giving way to the new. There were old-fashioned pushcarts selling pickles and brine, right next to delis, bagel bakers, brand new barber shops with their red and white striped poles. On the day the Dodgers played the World Series in 1955, the principal of the Eitz Chaim Yeshiva entered our classroom. The boys, I don't know what to say, but the Dodgers won. And then 50 elated yeshiva boys threw their yarmulkes into the air. We were the children of immigrants, finally feeling American, but Jewish to the core. And the shul, the synagogue, was the center of our lives. Each shul prided itself on their cantor, their chazan, how well he would sing, and how skillfully he would move his congregation to great moments of prayer. That was the world I grew up in. That was my childhood. Brooklyn in the 50s. And when my dad took me to shul as a little kid, I fell in love with the sound of the chazan. I sat there transfixed, dreaming. This is someone I could be someday. I look and I listen. A spark then ignites in my soul. Matoy, oy, olecho, yakoy, mishkenay secho, Yisroel. Transporting, transcendent, miraculous, magical, all from a voice, a human voice, a human voice. Picture the shul, not a seat to be found, the highlight of the week for them. Hey, Perry, I'll see you in shul next Shabbos. Do you think Chosovitsky's gonna sing that monster high C in Musaf? I'm bringing my tuning fork. Tears and amazement. There's nowhere else they'd like to be. He reminds us where we come from. It's something ineffable. He almost reaches God. He almost reaches God with that voice, with that voice. Ich sheperach avo yitzteinu Avram Yitzchak v'Yankov, u'yevorech es kol hakol, hakol hakodesh, u'Yakov hadosh. I did not know that this was the end of an era. I did not know that the sun was setting on something glorious. I did not know that this sound would change my life. In the wondrous, magical world that I grew up in, this happened once, and I was there. I was there. Yes, I was there. Transporting, transcendent, miraculous, magical, all from a voice, a human voice. Kol nidrei v'yesorei v'charomei v'kolomei. This golden age of the Cantor's voice. Thank you. Thank you. Those Sabbath mornings, so long ago, listening to the sound of the greats, and little 10-year-old Jackie with a front row seat as a member of the great Moishe Kosovitsky's choir. That sound became the driver of both sides of my professional life. The need to somehow become one of these artists myself and to succeed as a professional cantor, or chazan as we like to say. And the need, as this golden age of cantorial music passed us by, to somehow preserve this magnificent art for a new generation. Now, no self-respecting chazan worth his or her salt would ever come to a beautiful shul like this without a professional choir. So mazel tov, you're hired. That's right. These people are here to help you. These wonderful young people from UCLA, think of them as the Pips. And think of yourself as Gladys Knight. I'm going to teach you how to accompany a chazan. L'chaim. Back in the day, the chazan didn't even need a professional choir because the whole congregation would hum and they would create the chords underneath what the chazan was singing. So all you have to do is hum. That's all. If you're wondering what note to hum, you'll know. You'll know. And if you're not sure, then hum the last note that I sing, and you'll be in a good place. You'll be within the chord. Okay? And if you have some musicality and a little training, I want some harmonies. You know what I'm saying? Okay. So, this is a text from the Musaf Kedusha, Kavodo, Malei Olam. The whole earth is full of God's glory. You'll know what to do. Nice cut off. Mishores This is known as a word response. Repeat the word while singing. Now harmony. Woo! That was fantastic. Now let's see if I can fit this on my ear again. Shikoyach. Okay. Wait a second. There's one more thing you can do for me tonight. I have been seeing my shrink, Anita, for the past 30 years. It's a situation. Please, will you be my Anita tonight? Will you do that for me? Yes, yes? Thank you. That tickles me because you're paying for my therapy. I love it. Have I ever told you about my bar mitzvah? Picture a 13-year-old boy, me, the night before his bar mitzvah, feeling as if he has the weight of the world on his shoulders, thinking one thought over and over again. Everyone's counting on me. 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 My father, my poor father, he works like a horse, schlepping beer, celery tonic, and hacking at corned beef, of course. Trudging up from the basement, he never keeps pace with the nutnicks from Brooklyn with their jowls in his face. Hey, make it more lean. Only first cuts. Hey, not enough mustard. Here comes the next putz. He dreams of next week. Next week he'll escape from this hell. Yamechaya awaits him. How he'll beam and he'll quell at the shul of all shuls. The shul of all shuls. Borough Park's very own Temple Bethel, where Hirschman and Chagi Kusevitsky would sing. My Jackie will daven, he'll read from the Torah, he'll make me so proud, I'll feel like a king. Next week is Jackie's bar mitzvah. Next week is Jackie's bar mitzvah. My Jackie's bar mitzvah. My father was counting on me. My father was counting on me. My mother was so unpredictable. One day she's kibitzing, joking with all of the customers. The S&M Deli's very own stand-up comedian. And the next day it's whack. And then whack. Mom, why did you hit me? Why? Why? That's why. My mother was so unpredictable. A tornado, an earthquake, volcano, nothing that I could control. But the one thing that calmed her, the one thing that calmed her, was when I sang the song of my people. Na, na, mo. Like Jekyll and Hyde, her demeanor would shift. When I sang my chazanas, her demons would lift. My Jackie, he's got the great gift. Next Shabbos behind the mechitza. Next Shabbos we up in the balcony. Vega and Yeda and Rochel and Shendel all jealous of me. I made him a chazan. I made him a chazan. You see, you see, you see. Next week is Jackie's bar mitzvah. Next week is Jackie's bar mitzvah. My Jackie's bar mitzvah. My mother was counting on me. My mother was counting on me. Rabbi Israel Shore was truly a mensch among men. He took me under his wing at the age of 10. I was a troubled child. A little while he became my trusted friend. There was something I knew, a secret I kept deep inside. He asked, "Is your Torah perfect?" I looked at him and I lied. I told him I knew it, and then he shook my hand. With a pat on the back, "My boy, you will be grand." I ran home to study. I got 5 days left. I'm a yeshiva kid. I knew Trupp in the 4th grade. I can do this. I can do this memory work. Next thing I know, it's Friday, and the entire Mendelssohn clan arrives for the great event. Friday evening, we walk en masse to the very grand Temple Bethel, where Kabbalat Shabbat services were led magnificently by my Uncle Chemi, my father's brother, the great cousin from Montreal. Lechododi likras kalo B'nei Shabbos nikabelo Lechododi likras kalo B'nei Shabbos nikabelo. Next, we went for a very lavish Shabbat dinner at the high-end Hershey's Caterer, where the flunkin was called medallions of stewed beef, and the kishka was called Eastern European aromatic stuffing en croûte. And every chicken, of course, was a spring chicken. We ate, and we sang my Zaydas Miras. We sang my Zaydas table songs that you'll see in the next slide. Yes, my Zaydas Miras. Meinu chovavo v'simchovavo laYehudim. Yom Shavuos ein Yom Machmavadim, Yom Machmahadim. Everybody. Meinu chovavo v'simchovavo laYehudim. Good. Yom Shavuos ein Yom Machmavadim, Yom Machmahadim. Meinu v'simcha laYehudim. Yom Shavuos ein Yom Machmahadim. Shem Rav Zechro. Hema Meyidim. Kilishi Shekoel Beinu and the Yom Dim. By Meinu Chovavo Vesim. Ol HaYehud La Yehudim Yom Shavuos ein Yom Machma Yom Mach. Last time, everybody, let's go. Meinu La Yehudim Yom Shavuos ein Yom Machma Yom Machma. We went home. I waited. Most of the lights were out in the house. I waited till everyone was asleep. And I got up and I went to the only room that had a light in our Orthodox home, the bathroom. I went into that room with a tikkun, that sacred text from which we learn Torah readings, which should never be in a bathroom. But I sat there and I studied and I studied and I studied, and it was 1 in the morning, 2 in the morning, 3. I'm losing it. At 4 in the morning, I couldn't keep my eyes open. I fell asleep right on the toilet seat. Wake up early in the morning to stifling heat. August 22nd, 1959, 102 degrees in Brooklyn, New York. If you don't believe me, Google it. No air conditioning at home. No air conditioning in the shul. We walk to the shul, and I immediately go up to the bima to do the thing that I love to do. Leading the service, leading the shachrit or morning service. Oh, Tibby was looking at Louie, Mom and Dad, Tibby in the balcony, looking, bragging to her friends, my father looking at Rabbi Shor, my son, Jackie. Oh, Jackie. Yes, and we took out the Torah. I took out the Torah. Ki mitzion hetetzei Torah. Ki mitzion hetetzei Torah. Udevar Hashem mirushalayim. I put the Torah on the stender, on the table. I opened it up. I took the silver pointer. I looked out at the huge crowd in Temple Bethel. My father, my mother, my sisters, my brother, my Uncle Chami, Uncle Mottel, and the good Rabbi Shor. All of my friends, all of Temple Bethel, and all Borough Park. What should I do? Should I run? I can't run. They are counting on me. How it went, you asked me. Oh, I'll tell you how it went. In a Shabbat Torah reading, we have 7 portions known as Aliyot, or Aliyahs. First Aliyah, tremendous. Tremendous. Second Aliyah, a home run with the bases loaded. Third Aliyah, a double, but it was clutch. I pulled it out. The fourth Aliyah, I fell off the cliff. From the 4th to the 7th Aliyah, I must have made well over 1,000 mistakes. And each mistake, you have to be corrected by the shomer, the guardian, who happened to have been my brother, my older brother Solomon. And each time I made a mistake, while he was correcting me, I snuck a look at my father sitting right around there, and I saw his face red like a tomato and embarrassed, terribly embarrassed. And I looked up in the balcony, and there was my mother bragging no more. Not tears of joy coming down her cheeks, different types of tears. A tragedy. So what do Jews do in face of a tragedy? We eat. Simmen tov and mazel tov and mazel tov and simmen tov and mazel tov and mazel tov and simmen tov and mazel tov and mazel tov and simmen tov, yeah, Oh, yeah, mama, Simin tov and mazel tov and Simin tov and mazel tov and Simin tov and mazel tov and Simin. Yeah, hey, love, no. Oh, yeah, mama, no, yeah, hey, no. Oh, lechol Yisrael. Yeah, hey, no, yeah, hey, no. Oh, lechol Yisrael. Yeah, hey, no, yeah, hey, no. Oh, lechol Yisrael. Yeah, hey, no, yeah, hey, no. Oh, lechol Yisrael. Welcome to my bar mitzvah. That was a bar mitzvah in the 50s. Not like today's bar mitzvah safari or the bat mitzvah on the main floor of Tiffany's. It's even before we named our daughters Tiffany. It's even before we named our daughters Tiffany. That's better. No, just a small band and a whole lot of food and the entire Mendelssohn family whooping it up. Now, something had to happen. Something had to happen before the happiness began, because there was an elephant in the room. There was a catastrophe that morning. And something very nice actually happened about a minute before Mom and Dad and I took this picture. We were in an anteroom, and they walked over to me, and they put their arms around me, and they said, "Jackie, we love you." Oh, that's exactly what I needed to hear after that Torah reading in the morning. And I had an enormous cry, and then we went to take that picture. If you saw this picture up close, you would see the sheen in my eyes. So there's Tibby and Louie, Mom and Dad. Let me tell you a little bit about them. They were madly in love with each other, and they stayed that way till the end. 45 years. Childhood sweethearts. You know, I think really it was my dad that kept that flame going, because Louis Mendelssohn was way ahead of his time, sexually speaking. You see, Louis married a dominatrix. That's right. But Tibby didn't use leather or whips or change. No, it was her laser-sharp tongue that caused exquisite pain. Nothing that Louis seemed to do in 45 years was right in any way. Poor Louis. Here's a perfect example. Friday night, certainly in those days, the father of the family would sanctify the wine. He would make the kiddush. My father, 5'5", he was standing on the box during this picture here. 5'5", he would puff himself up and go, "Hey, Louie, you're going to a fire? Slow down." Next Shabbos. Hey, Louie, a snail maybe goes faster than you. The brisket's going to be dry. On and on it went. Hey, Louie, you're voting for Stevenson? What are you, a communist? Hey, Louie, those socks, you think that those socks match? What are you, crazy? There was one place that he escaped from his henpecked existence, and that was his delicatessen, the S&M Deli. Big blue neon sign, you can't make this up. The S&M Deli. That's right. Now, that name having nothing to do with the relationship of Tibby and Louie, but the more prosaic initials of the proprietors, Sachs and Mendelssohn's delicatessen. And at his deli, Louis was king, Tibby was queen, and the two of them took great delight in battling the customers. In walks a Mrs. Lifshitz, a very annoying woman, nasal of voice, thin of body, and she's the worst thing of all, she's cheap. This woman is cheap. So my mother, upon seeing her, immediately goes into this dialect that was prevalent among Jewish women of that era. It was called Brooklyn on the Thames. Oh, how do you do, Mrs. Lifshitz? What can we do? How may we serve you, my dear? So Lifshitz says, I'd like to have a quarter pound, make it an eighth of a pound of corned beef. Lean, it's got to be lean, an eighth. So Louis cuts like a slice and a half of corned beef, puts it on the scale. It's an eighth of a pound, and Lifshitz looks at it, and my parents look at Lifshitz, and Lifshitz says, tell me, do you think it's enough? And Tibby, without skipping a beat, well, my dear, it depends on how big of a crowd you're expecting. There were certain days where Louis wasn't so royal in his deli. One particular day, he was in the back replenishing the mustard. He would take a big ladle, and he would go into the back where there was a huge vat of mustard. Louis was short. He would stand on the box. So he's in the back ladling, and we're in the front, Tibby and myself, and we hear, help, help! We run back to the kitchen. Louis fell head first into the mustard. I pull him out of the mustard. He's standing there, head to toe with mustard in his white deli man's outfit. He says, Jackie, get the keys to my Buick. Tibby says, not my Buick, not the upholstery. Jackie, get your bicycle. So I got my Schwinn. I put Louis on the handlebars, and we're driving down the busiest thoroughfare of Borough Park, 13th Avenue, and all the Jews are looking, and they see a very large, very Jewish, ashamed canary on a bicycle walking. Oh, Vesmir, now lest you think that I got all of my, let's say, issues, 30 years with Anita issues, from Tibby and Louie alone, it's time for you to meet some of our other family and friends that attended this august occasion. Aha. Now looking at these people, I just realized 99% of these people are dead. Dead, 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 on a feeding tube. Dead, 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 dead. They're divorced and dead. Dead, 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 dead. She's in a coma. Dead, 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 dead. Oh, look at this guy. That is Willie Spielberg. He used to deliver the meat provisions to the deli. Now, one day, he was weighing pastrami's in the back. He didn't think my father was there. He had 6 pastrami's on the scale plus his elbow. Louis caught him and said, look, Willie, we know each other 25 years. I'm not going to turn you in to your boss, but there will be a punishment. The punishment is, from now on, you are to be known as Willie the Crook. That's right. And Willie didn't seem to mind. He puffed up his chest and he said, "Look at me. A made man on a milk scale, on a meat scale." Boy, did I deliver that badly. A made man on a meat scale. Ha ha! Next! Tripped on a bagel. Choked while eating trafe. Next! Oh, that's my cousin Marvin. Oh, yes. He was into chemistry as a little boy. One day he chemistried me. He snuck up behind me with a cloth with chloroform, and he put it on my face and knocked me out for 45 minutes. Now, I don't know if Marvin is dead or alive, but I do know he did a 10-year stretch at Marion State Penitentiary. Next! Dead, 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 dead. Come on, dead, 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 dead. Come on, dead, 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 dead. Put some schmaltz upon his bread. It dripped, he slipped, he's dead. Then, look at this guy's wife. He wishes he were dead. Next! Dead, 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 dead. Started in the morning on 4:05. By evening he was dead. Next! Here's Uncle Hemi, the rest of my uncles and aunts. Soon we'll all be heart attack, hardening of the arteries. Look out for Zika, here comes Ebola. Soon we'll all be dead. Thank you very much. See you in 10 minutes.
Friends, as you settle in and get ready for the second act here, there's someone really important who we neglected to thank before we started, and that is Stephen Carr, who prepared this wonderful choir. So just a special thanks to Stephen. And I'm glad to thank him after you've heard how wonderful they are. And also a special thank you to the UCLA students who are here providing the choral backing. Thank you. You guys are wonderful. And with that, I think we're ready for the second act.
Chaste Hashem ki lo ysamnu ilai chalu rachamam. Chaste Hashem ki lo ysamnu ilai chalu rachamam. Chaste Hashem ki lo ysamnu ilai chalu rachamav. Chaste Hashem ki lo ysamnu ilai chalu rachamav. Chaste Hashem ki lo ysamnu ilai chalu rachamav. God's mercy never ceases. Never ends. But my childhood ended when I was 11 years old. Tibby, Louie, and I were sitting around the kitchen table having a bite to eat, and out of nowhere my mom says in a strange voice, Louie, I'm sinking, help me. And her head slowly went down and down until it hit the Formica table. Louie jumped up and grabbed her by the shoulders. Tibby, no reaction. So he went to the phone nook and he called the family doctor, who immediately came over, as they did in those days. And he said, Louie, we've got to get her to the hospital. So they picked her up. Together, literally, she was dead weight. They literally picked her up and took her outside. Naturally, I followed, My father says, no, Jackie, stay here. It's okay. It'll just be for a few minutes. I'll get your sister Betty to come over and take care of you. Well, 2 hours later, Betty hadn't come yet. I was left alone with my thoughts. My mother's going to die. What am I going to do? Finally, she came, calmed me down. She ended up staying 3 weeks taking care of Dad and me. And nobody told me anything. I was the baby, I was the youngest, so they didn't say anything. I heard words. I heard lithium. I heard manic. I even heard shock treatments. And when I heard that, I thought she was going to die for sure. But 3 weeks to the day that the incident happened, the door opens up, Tibby and Louie walk in, Tibby with a beautiful smile on her face. I'm standing in the middle of the room. She runs to me, she grabs me, Jackie, Jackie, I love you, my Jackie. She pinches my cheeks and she's all happy and excited. And I'm limp like a rag doll. She got rid of her depression and somehow it went straight into me. From that day on, I stopped doing well in school. I didn't want to be with my friends. I couldn't even prepare for my own bar mitzvah. Now, the catastrophe of that morning, it just took me so long to wrap my head around it and to realize that it was my genetic disposition. You see, I inherited my musical gifts from my father's side of the family and my demons from Tibby's side. Now, lest you think I did any better in high school, the guy you see now is a yeshiva school dropout. The Mishnah, the Gemara, well, they weren't for me. The Talmudical Academy of Flatbush, Brooklyn, they showed me the door and they threw away the key. A shanda for your parents, you're such a disappointment. A scholar you're not, you gotta pull your own weight. I gotta tell you, kid, there's never been someone like you. Don't let the door hit your tuchus and geges unter hay. There I was, 16 years old, with only one card left to play in the deck. Public school. New Utrecht High School, to be exact. Just 3 stops away from Ardeli on the D train. And I was not prepared for what I encountered there. For the first time in my life, I met kids who weren't Jewish. There was Tony, Guido, Bruno sitting next to me in class, wearing muscle shirts with cigarettes, switchblades in their pocket. I looked the other way as I thought they'd kick my ass. Well, I did learn something at the Utrecht. I learned about the art of conflict resolution. You see, when yeshiva kids got into a fight, there were rules, strict rules. No hitting, no actual hurting. One kid got the other kid in what we call the Brooklyn headlock, and they stand there side by side until the teacher comes, breaks them up, and 2 minutes later, they're sharing a Three Musketeers bar. The New Utrecht kids had different rules, namely, no rules. Punching, gouging, biting, and that was just the girls. Now, truth of the matter is, I didn't do any better at New Utrecht than I was doing at yeshiva. Most days I would just cut class, go meandering around the neighborhood. One such day, I'm walking on the Utrecht Avenue under the L, and I see a sign on a window, Chucky's Luncheonette. Curious, I opened the door, and there I was in my new home away from home. Sitting at Chucky's Luncheonette, wondering what to do. Sitting at Chucky's Luncheonette, help me with some of the words. Sitting at Chucky's Luncheonette, watching the world go by. Drowning my sorrows with French fries and egg creams, and how the time would fly. My head spinning faster, I stare at the plaster. These books I can't master, my life's a disaster. So I'm sitting at Chucky's, watching my life go by. No algebra tests, no parents to hound me, nothing to answer for. Escaping from life with comic heroes, with Superman I could soar. Sitting at Chucky's with hoodlums and bookies, eating black and white cookies and permanent hooky. Wasting my life, watching it all go by. After a while, someone noticed I was missing. My parents got a call to see if I was alive. Your son's a delinquent, and sorry, no diploma. The blaming and the shaming, how's a mother to survive? For the first time in your life, you're gonna learn to finish something. You'll get yourself a job, you're gonna pay us some rent. I'd had enough to hear with being told I was a loser. I packed myself a bag and out the door I went. Where did I go? The only place I felt safe, where I could sedate myself with chocolate egg creams and cherry lime rickeys, sit in a booth and figure out what to do next. Sitting at Chucky's luncheonette, wondering what to do. Where will I go and what's gonna save me? I haven't got a clue. My thoughts are frenetic, were my parents prophetic? My life is pathetic, a teenager caught in between. Oh, it sucks to be 16. So there you have it, the worst day of my life. But Tibby, God bless her, wasn't about to give up on her dream for me becoming a great chazan. So she continually kept pouring in money for my weekly lessons with the hugely eccentric, totally out of control, cantorial teacher, the Viennese, Willie Bogchester. We called him Bogey. Now, when I'm talking hugely eccentric, I'm talking huge. Bogey was 350 pounds, and he was 5'4". A typical lesson, and as you can see, he liked salami. A typical lesson with Bogchester. I'd knock on the door, and I'd hear from the back, and I could picture him walking, "Jackie, I love you. I'm coming." Now, the deal with the legs apart, you see, he weighed so much, I mean, he was afraid for the thighs to rub and there would be trouble, you know. So he walked like that. And, "Jackie, I love you." The door opens up and I see from the bottom to top, black patent leather shoes, over the calf socks, male garters, and his Gottges and nothing else. Just his underwear. He says, "Jackie, come in. I didn't have time to put on my robe. Follow me, Jackie. Come, Jackie. Jackie, follow me. We're going to go to the piano. Let me get my robe." Okay? Puts on his robe. And under the robe, he puts on an ascot. An ascot he puts on. Bogchester. And he says, "Jackie, you're going to learn the chazanas now, Jackie." He says, "I sing, you repeat. You don't look at no music. Just a siddur. Just a siddur." So he goes, Shoichein ad muroim vekudosh Shemoi Jackie. Shoichein ad muroim vekudosh Shemoi. Oi, Jackie, I love you. I love you, Jackie. Let's do more. We shall in this hallo. We shall in this wow, Jackie. We shall in this hallo. We shall in this Oi, that's my boy, and that's how he taught me by rote. To this day, I still teach Chazanut that way at the Hebrew Union College and at the Jewish Theological Seminary. They need to hear it. I needed to hear it, and I grew up with it. Can you imagine today's clientele? They never heard of Chazan before. They need to hear it and get the inflections. Buckchester was a wonderful teacher. He taught me how to read music, solfeggio, and he taught me concert repertoire. He taught me this great Yiddish song about a Jewish blacksmith, der Yid, der Schmied. Lamme, 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 machen an egen Yid. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. Wegen, 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 na jeder Schmied. In sein Schmied, in sein Schmied, in sein Schmied, der Schmiederei. Rei, 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 rei. In sein Schmied, dem Schmiederei. Rei, 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 rei. In sein Schmied, der Schmiederei. Rei, 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 rei. Rei, 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 rei. Hey, die bam 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 bim bam bam bim bam bam. Hey, bam 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 bim bam 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 bam. Hey, la la. He even taught me an Italian song, a tarantella, a wonderful dance about young people in love and dancing over the moon. Mezz'amore, mamma mia, si salterà. L'ora bella per acciare che la mondo mancherà. E già la luna mezz'amore, mamma mia, si salterà. L'ora bella per acciare che la mondo mancherà. Già la luna mezz'amore, mamma mia, si salterà. Presto danza tondo, tondo, donna mia, venite qua. Don melogio scondo, vasce sconda toccherà. In che ciel brilla una stella e la luna splenerà. Il più bel con la più bella, tutta danzerà. Mamma mia, già la luna mezzo mare. Mamma mia, si salterà. And the chazonis that he taught me the most famous of all cantorial compositions, made famous by the Kusevitsky brothers. And I'm going to sing this for you tonight, but to really authenticate this, I had to go out there and find some Kusevitskys. That's right. We have with us tonight a lost relative of Simcha Kusevitsky, Kerith Kusevitsky. And her son, who doesn't know this, but he was adopted, they found him locked in a room with only Kusevitsky recordings. And he grew up all Kusevitsky all the time. The two Kusevitskys, let's have them up here now. We will sing Sheyibone Beis Hamikdash, about the rebuilding of the temple. And I want you to know that I will give Chai to have one of the stained glass windows.
רצון.
Well, so the musical part of my life was doing okay, as you could see. But the rest of my life was totally off the rails. That kid sitting in Chookies was a recent runaway from home and a high school dropout. I had a couple of bucks in my pocket due to the fact that when I got thrown out of school, I got myself a job in a handbag factory as a stock boy. And I made some money. And so I decided to make an investment decision. You see, one of the bookies who used to frequent Chookies said to me, "Hey, Jackie," he was a very trustworthy type of a guy, a scraggly beard, shoelaces untied, different color socks, and I believed him. He said, "Hey, Jackie, I got a system for you. A system, and you got to pay $100 to me. You'll have a system. You'll beat the ponies." I said, if he said he's got a system, he must have a system. So I gave him half of the money that I had in the world, and I had a system. And so, armed with the system, I decided to get my life back on track. So I went to the track, Aqueduct Racetrack to be exact. Now, when they have a racing day, there's 9 races, right? So I bet on the first race using the figures from the system. I win. Second race, nebuch, I lose. 3 to 9, I win. I got 3 grand in my pocket. I didn't know what to do with myself. I hired a limo. I got myself a cigar. I choked on the cigar. I had the limo guy drive me to New York. I said, "Find me a hotel, a nice hotel." And he stops in front of a hotel. I knew it had to be nice. It said rooms by the hour. Yeah. So I went into this hotel, and I figured I'd get even with Tivy and Louie, so I went out and had a cheeseburger. That was good. Then I went to a movie, and I hired the limo to take me back to Aqueduct the next day. That's right, I go to Aqueduct. I win 7 out of 9 races. I now have $7,000 in my pocket. Limo back to the city. I go to a Broadway show. I'm going to be a millionaire. That's it. My life is solved. Everything is fine. Limo back to the track the third day. I lost the first race, the second race, the third race, the fourth race. I lost every race. I kept doubling down till finally I had $10 in my pocket with a little change. So I didn't know what to do, so I called my big brother, the Chazan in Long Beach, Long Island, Solomon Mendelson, my beloved brother and teacher. I called him up. He says, "Jackie, thank God we thought you, we called the police. Where are you? What? Who?" I told him the story. He says, "You got to call Mom and Dad." I said, "I'm not doing it. They want me to pay rent, and that's it. I'm not going to talk to them." He said, "All right, do you have enough money to get on the Long Island Railroad?" I did. It was like $2 then, and I met him in Long Beach, and he sort of spoke to Mom and Dad and kind of squared it with them. I proceeded to have the greatest summer of my life with my brother. He was an incredible chazan. Listening to him daven was every time it was just like an education. And watching him work with those kids, he was such a master. Back in the 50s, his bar mitzvah students were calling him by his first name. In the 50s, this was unheard of. He had such charisma. He got me a job in a day camp, and he saw to it that he knew a family, so I had my first date that summer because of him. And the most importantly, most important, he got me to finish high school at night. And I did so. And that was my beautiful summer with my beloved Saul. So, armed with my high school diploma, I went to the city to audition for the oldest cantorial school in the country, the Hebrew Union College School of Sacred Music. And I got in. And within a couple of months, I went on placement, and I got myself a job at the very prestigious Conservative Synagogue of Riverdale. My first high holidays. I faced a congregation of 1,500 people, but there were two very special people in the first row, Tibby and Louie. How's it look? Did I get it right? And I sang in the Musaf service from the Unatana Tokef, Kiva Koras Roe Edro. Like a shepherd, God tends to his flock, the people Israel. Anita, I have a gift for you. Something that all therapists want. A dream. I had a dream last night that I have to tell you about. In this dream, I had passed on to the next world and was walking in a field. It sort of looked like it was out of a grade B black and white movie. Fog, weird music. And I saw this wooden structure. I was drawn to it. I kept walking towards it. It was a shul. It looked like one of those beautiful little shuls straight out of Galicia. I heard beautiful singing coming from that shul. So I peeked in, and there were 3 chazonim in there, singing so beautifully. They were dressed in their finery, in their Cantor's hats, with their thin talitot, with what we call the atara, bejeweled atarot they had. And they were 3 of the greatest cantors that ever lived. Pierre Pinchik on the left. It was said of him that he scratched the Jews where they itched. On the right, the great Moshe Oisher. Oisher, who was a crossover artist, as adept at jazz as he was at Chazanut. And in the center, the King of Kings, Moshe Kusevitsky. My teacher as a child, I sang alto in his choir. Now, Kusevitsky, or Kusi as we called him, had a very high voice. He used to come into our delicatessen. He would say, Jackie, let me have a brisket on club, scoop the bread. So he looked at me and he said, Jackie, is it you? I remember you when you were 13, 14 years old, when you were just a pisher. Look at you now, a man with gray hair. Pretty soon you'll be up here with us, but I don't have to talk about that now. He says, you must do me a favor, Jackie. You must tell these 2 second-rate cantors what it was like in Borough Park when I led services. Tell them, Jackie. So I'm not going to refuse Moshe Kozovitsky. I say, Chazonim, when Moshe davened, 2,000 people, every seat was taken. Another 300 people were standing. And that great moment, the first high moment in the service, when Kozovitsky put back the Torah, it was quiet. It was quiet, so quiet. They were anticipating what was going to happen next. Even the dogs in the neighborhood knew not to bark at that moment. When you, Moshe Kozovitsky, sang that incredible high C, putting back the Torah. Just then, Pinchik joins into the conversation. You should know he sounded a little bit like Bela Lugosi in Count Dracula. Jackie, this Kusevitsky fellow, he may think he was great, but he wasn't much of a chazan. He just had high notes. Hey, Kusevitsky, let me tell you something. I could do more with 4 notes than your 3.5 akakta octaves. That's right. Chazonis is an art. Jackie, I want you to sing for these 2 nothing cantors, my Rozo de Shabbos. Show them what the art is. Can't refuse Pinchik. Leilo Yossi Val Kudisayo di Kore. Dis Davidas Rozo de Echode Kegavno di למלך עוד מייך למלך מייך Hazo Ad Hashem Echol U'Shemo Echol Razadi Shabbat Just as the song was ending, Kusevitsky, like a good colleague, whispers into my ear, Jackie, you maybe had a sore throat just now. In comes Moshe Eicher to the conversation. He says, what are you talking about, Jackie? High notes, low notes, odd, schmod. Chazonis is entertainment. You want to go daven, go on Thursday morning and put on tefillin. You come to shul on Shabbos, you're going to be entertained by a great chazan. Do me a favor, Jackie. Sing my Omar Rabbi Elazar for these two amateur chazanim. Okay. Amar Rabbi Elazar, Amar Rabbi Chanina. Talmidei Chachamim, Marvim Shalom Ba'olam. Amar Rabbi Elazar, Amar Rabbi Chanina. Talmidei Chachamim, Marvim Shalom Ba'olam. וכל בנייך לימודי השם ברב שלום בנייך אל תקראי בנייך אלא שלום רב ליואבי תורתך ויהי לנו מכשול יהי שלום בחלק שלווה לארמנותיי שלווה בארמונותיי. אמר רבי אלעזר, אמר רבי חנינא, תלמידי חכמים, מרבים שלום בעולם. Shalom. Nadabra na 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 shalom. Shalom 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 shalom. I wish I could have stayed up all night, that the dream never stopped. I wish I could have hung out with those guys when they were in their prime. Oh, my parents would have loved it if I brought him to the deli. Can you imagine? Oh. Well, come to think of it, I really don't have any right to wish for anything. I've had a wonderful career. I started out in Riverdale, New York. I went to North Miami Beach, Florida, back to Queens, and for over a quarter of a century at Temple Israel Center in White Plains, New York. I concertized all around the world, from the great bima of the great synagogue of Jerusalem to the great stage of Carnegie Hall. They even made a lovely little documentary movie about me. Some of you might have seen it, called A Cantor's Tale, which played in many, many film festivals, and also was quite a few times on PBS, and still is played sometimes on PBS. Altogether, quite a rich, rich life. And I got to marry the woman of my dreams, my dear Freda, who was a renowned opera singer when I met her at the Juilliard School. And after she hung out with me for 10, 15 years, became a chazan. And at the center of our lives is our delicious son, Danny Mendelsohn, who is a filmmaker and a radio personality, and he also happens to be one terrific chazan. He's married to Amanda Kleiman, who's a chazan. They have a 6-month-old child who doesn't know it yet, but he's going to be a chazan. My grandson's going to be a chazan. I get to teach. That's the greatest thing in my life. I could never be depressed when I'm teaching young people chazonos. Never. You know, I try to save it. I do the best I can to hold it up, to keep it going. And sometimes it's difficult. Sometimes I'm facing such an uphill battle. But then again, you haven't heard my son Danny. Check this out.
خادش
Hey, Kosovitsky, we're not dead yet. Well, maybe you are, but we're not dead yet. Kosovitsky, that reminds me, at the end of the dream, when he came to me right before daybreak, and he said, "Nothing lasts forever, Jackie. Nothing lasts for long. There once were 2 temples in Jerusalem, with their fortresses mighty and strong. And the pillagers from Rome, the greed of Babylon, left a pile of stones, and now the temples are gone." Nothing lasts forever, Jackie. That seems to be our lot. The men would dance on the Sabbath Eve on the hills of a town called Sfat. But that was 400 years ago, like the wind when the Galilee rains. And now just an echo remains. For that is life, my friend. That is the rhythm of life. The Victrola became the record player. Horse and buggy gave way to cars. Change is all around us. It's written in the stars. Remember, Jackie, 50, 60 years ago, when the crowds of people would flock to the synagogue just to hear the Cantor's voice. The crowds of 2,000 people, well, history turned that page. Borough Park, our shtetl, will not be the same without its golden age. So what do we do? Do we simply let it fade? The music that reached the angels becomes a dream betrayed. Oh, what to do? Jackie, I'm sitting up here with not much to do. But on Wednesdays, I look down on you as you're teaching the young students at the Cantorial College. You're teaching them the Chazanut, Rosh Hashanah, and Yom Kippur. I sit up here and I watch you teach a new generation to sing, and most of the time I just shake my head. These kids don't know a thing. They don't know a blessed thing. I gotta hand it to you, Jackie, for going that extra mile. And once in a while I shake my head as I break into a smile. I hear a krechts, I hear a sigh. I don't know how you did it, but you made their voices cry. You made their voices cry. And maybe, just maybe, I think, and maybe, just maybe, and maybe, just maybe, Chazon is my art will not die. Carry on, Jackie, carry on, carry on, Jackie. Something will live on. Turn to page 362, you guys. Today we're going to learn the most important prayer of the holidays, more important than the Kol Nidre. Who will live? Who will die? Do you hear the yearning of 4,000 years in my sound? You can do it. Try it. Carry on, Jackie. Carry on. Carry on, Jackie. Carry on. Something will live on. Wait. Have I ever told you about my bar mitzvah? Carry on. Jonathan! Kaya.